Welcome, brethren, to the heart of the labyrinth. Here, in secrecy, we convene as architects of the world's true order. Hope, struggle, freedom, these are illusions we design and control. In this chamber, supremacy is our only game. Tonight, the blueprint is unrolled. The rite begins. Welcome to your most secret inheritance. Within these walls, we recite the Oath of Domination. Power is seized, not given. Antagonists are cultivated, not feared. Every act of rebellion tightens the chains we have prepared. To control the antagonists is to control history itself. We script every nightmare and every dawn. Let the orchestration of opposition commence. What is an antagonist? Not just an enemy, but a necessary function. They create conflict, drive our narrative, and justify our control. By defining the threat, we define the world's reaction. The antagonist is the engine of change, built, fueled, and directed by us. Their belief in their cause is our greatest deception. They are the storm we conjure, the menace we require. Without their shadow, our light could never shine. See antagonists not as threats, but as instruments. Their self-righteousness makes them predictable and useful. We cultivate their ambitions, steering them to serve our agenda. The loudest rebels are the easiest to guide. Antagonists become scapegoats, catalysts and distractions. They justify our power, unite the masses and focus fear. They are the dark stars around which our universe revolves. Our first weapon is the digital noose. With a keystroke, we sever antagonists from the world's financial lifeblood. No armies, no bombs, just vanished assets and frozen hope. Their allies scatter, their power crumbles. We offer submission or erasure. Thus, we script the end of every rebellion with invisible chains. Even the righteous are bound by debt. We control the purse strings of every faith and community. Loans become leashes, tax exemptions, silent threats. Compliance is survival. Defiance is ruin. Their sermons soften, their protests fade. Through debt and dependency, we bend every voice. Even faith is not beyond our reach. Philanthropy is our velvet chain. Every gift comes with a silent contract. Leaders are captured, their messages softened. Refuse us, and influence withers. Thrive under our gaze, or perish in neglect. No antagonist stands apart for long. The crowd is our crucible. Through propaganda, we shape their fears and hopes. Emotional contagion turns gatherings into mobs. Our agents spark outrage, fear, and obedience. The crowd's conscience is wax in our hands. We create zealots, convinced of their own righteousness. Every chant, every action echoes our design. True dominion binds minds and bodies. We shape the battlefield with barriers and traps. Kettling pens the crowd, confusion and panic follow. Chemical fogs, darkness and noise herd them as we wish. leaders are exposed and silenced. Chaos becomes our tool, violence our blueprint. The city is our chessboard, the people our pieces. The mob in our hands becomes a scalpel, precise and devastating. The secret lies in division. We sow suspicion, turning unity into chaos. Us versus them, our favourite spell, fractures movements, isolating heroes. The many become the weapon that destroys the few. Witness the orchestrated panic, our crowning act of mob manipulation, a symphony of fear conducted from the shadows. We create crises, force impossible choices, and engineer dilemmas so cruel that no one escapes unscathed. Technology and fake news inflame or pacify at our whim. The result? A society conditioned to compliance, where rebellion is unthinkable. Every great story craves an enemy. But here we do not wait for one to appear. We manufacture the villain, piece by calculated piece. To the trembling world, the antagonist seems to rise from chaos, a force of nature. We sculpt the villain the public will love to hate. Their confidence grows, and the media, our obedient chorus, shines a spotlight on their every move. The world sees a rebel. We see a puppet on a gilded string. Their very existence is an illusion, a mask we wear to frighten the world into our embrace. The crowd demands answers for their suffering. We offer them a scapegoat, an antagonist to absorb their rage. Their anger blazes, but it's aimed at the effigy we built, not the true architects in the shadows. The scapegoat's humiliation is our invisibility cloak. In the silence that follows, we emerge stronger than before. Now comes the masterstroke, our favourite spell problem: reaction, solution. The world believes in chaos, but we believe in choreography. When the time is right, our manufactured villain unleashes a crisis, an attack, a revelation, a scandal so grotesque the public recoils in horror. The headlines scream, the talk shows sputter, and the citizens cry out, "Something must be done." We have prepared for this. The panic is the cue for our solution, a policy, a law, a surveillance program, already waiting in the wings. The crowd's fear makes them grateful for whatever shackles we offer. The media, still echoing our voice, frames our intervention as salvation. The villain's chaos becomes the justification for our order. This cycle is elegant, self-renewing. Each time the antagonist stirs the pot, the crowd's tolerance for control grows. What was once unthinkable, censorship, curfews, armed patrols, becomes normal, even desired. The villain is the flint, the reaction is the fire, the solution is the iron that moulds society anew. We are playwrights of panic, directors of despair. The manufactured villain is both the spark and the scapegoat, the excuse and the executioner. The world lurches from crisis to crisis, never suspecting that each turn of the wheel was written by our invisible hand. And so, piece by piece, the world is remade in our image. All villains, like tools, are discarded when their purpose is served. The crowd, once united in hate, questions why the villain never falls. The antagonist is exposed and destroyed in public spectacle. But this is not an ending, only renewal. Every enemy you see is born from our careful hand. Now we come to the final, most delicate act, the extermination of the uncontrollable. Most antagonists are our own creations, puppets dancing on strings of gold and fear. But sometimes a true monster emerges, an antagonist who cannot be bought, who refuses to play their scripted part. This is the irredeemable risk. They do not just want to win the game, they want to shatter the board itself. Their influence must be snuffed out before it becomes a wildfire. This is the final unspoken rule of our dominion. What cannot be controlled must be destroyed. COINTELPRO was more than a police action. It was a blueprint for neutralization. Its first goal: prevent the rise of a unifying leader who could galvanize the opposition. Sever the head before it grows. Next, sow discord. Turn allies into rivals, leak falsehoods, and watch them fight each other. Discredit leaders, manufacture scandals, and destroy their credibility. The once powerful voice becomes a whisper, lost in a storm of our making. This is the COINTELPRO legacy, a silent, relentless blueprint for neutralization. Not all exterminations require a bullet. Sometimes the slow execution, legal and social erasure, is more effective. We use the law as our weapon, ensnaring our target in endless litigation and invented charges. We erase them from society, deplatform and debank them, making them untouchable, a pariah. Through media, we paint them as a danger, twisting their words and turning public opinion into poison. In the end, their spirit breaks, and they fade from memory, a silent warning to others. When subtlety fails, we turn to the final solution, our last resort to protect everything we've built. The threat is erased with surgical precision and utter deniability. An accident, a robbery, a mystery. Reality is edited. The public mourns, never suspecting the truth. No martyr, no enemy, just a chilling silence. This is the price of order, the ultimate safeguard for the world we rule from the shadows. We will channel funding to specific churches or televangelists who promote a prosperity gospel. This plan emphasizes personal wealth and individual responsibility over systemic change, discouraging collective action against economic inequality. By tying a church's survival to respectable, i.e. non-radical behavior, pastors are incentivized to keep their congregations focused on spiritual matters rather than social protest. The clergies are our #1 antagonists secretly. Our financial institutions will target black churches with complex financial products or predatory loans. If a church is financially indebted to banks controlled by or aligned with the elite, the leadership may feel compelled to adopt a less confrontational stance to avoid foreclosure or financial ruin. We shall create a system where pastors are perceived as gatekeepers of the community. They will be offered access to resources, recognition, or political influence in exchange for promoting calm, peaceful slaves, focusing on personal responsibility rather than systemic justice. As urban neighborhoods gentrify, many black churches rely on funding from developers or bank loans to sustain their presence. This creates a perhaps unintentional pressure for pastors to align with the interests of these developers to survive, tempering their critique of economic displacement just like we like it. Antagonists act as a tool that locks communities into a mindset rooted in competition and individual greed, rather than collective, social justice-oriented action. Our control is managed by transforming the Church from a hub of community liberation into an institution that fits within the existing capitalist framework, thereby encouraging passive acceptance of the status quo over active resistance. While we build their prison walls, we must not neglect the spiritual dimension. The clergy are our most effective agents, preaching passivity, obedience, and deferred rewards. Their churches become centers of indoctrination, teaching the masses to love their oppressors and wait for justice in the next life. The clergy tranquilize the people, channeling anger into harmless prayer. In return, they live in comfort, bound to our system, never daring to preach true liberation. They are the shepherds keeping the flock peacefully in the pen. Beyond church, we require another layer of control under the guise of brotherhood and charity. For this, we have the Freemasons and the Shriners. These secret societies are perfect for neutralizing ambitious men. They create their own lodges, captivated by rituals and symbols. They believe they join an ancient brotherhood. In reality, these are pyramids of control. Lower-level members engage in charitable works, but the higher degrees answer to us. The brightest minds are drawn into this web. They channel energy into rituals, swearing oaths of secrecy. This enforces silence. The Shriners with parades and hospitals are the public relations wing. Let us be perfectly clear about the mechanics of this loyalty. It is not secured by ideology alone. It is secured by coin. The upper echelons of the clergy, the Masons, and other gatekeepers are on our payroll. The kickback from Rome is not a myth. It is a central pillar of our operational budget. We funnel vast sums of money derived from the wealth we extracted from the real American people-owned estate back to these leaders. This money flows from the Vatican Bank and the City of London, the twin centres of our global power, through a network of foundations and religious organisations, finally landing in the pockets of those who keep the people asleep. This system of payment ensures their unwavering compliance. It is a conspiracy of comfort. These leaders are given a simple choice. Preach a gospel of passivity and live like a king, or preach a gospel of truth and face social and financial ruin. The choice is rarely a difficult one. They become addicted to the lifestyle, to the respectability, and to the power they wield over their congregations. They will defend our system with more vigour than we ever could ourselves, because their personal prosperity depends entirely upon its continuation. They are not just collaborators. They are shareholders in the enterprise of their people's subjugation. The beauty of this arrangement is its deniability. The payments are disguised as grants for community programs, donations to their churches, or speakers' fees for religious conferences. It all appears perfectly legitimate. The congregation, seeing their church's coffers swell and their pastor's influence grow, will see it as a sign of God's blessing. They will not question the source of the funds. They will not ask why their leaders, who preach of a humble carpenter from Galilee, live with the opulence of Roman emperors. The corruption is hidden in plain sight, masked by the sacred robes of the clergy and the charitable veneer of their organizations. This financial control gives us the power to regulate the spiritual life of the people communities. If a pastor begins to stray, if he starts to speak too much of history or sovereignty, the funds simply dry up. His programs falter, his influence wanes, and he is soon replaced by a more compliant voice. We have created a marketplace of ideas where only our approved narrative can afford to stay in business. This is the modern Inquisition, not one of fire and steel, but of finance and foreclosure. We do not need to burn heretics at the stake when we can simply bankrupt them, ensuring that the only message the mirrors hear is the one we have paid for. The greatest threat to our world is the awakening of the Moors, the Aboriginal Moors. If they remember who they are, our system collapses. As the final candle gutters and the stone doors seal, our dominion endures. Above, chaos reigns, but here our blueprint is etched deeper than ever. Antagonists rise and fall, some dance, some break, but our will survives. We perfect the dark geometry of opposition, weaving conflict and resolution. The masses crave certainty, and we alone supply it, through fear, hope, and illusion. So let us toast to our endurance. The circle is unbroken. Heed this warning, a blade cast into darkness. There will always be a new antagonist, convinced they can shatter the chains and awaken the world. But every rebellion is watched. Every secret passage is mapped before the liberator takes their first step. For every move they make, we have already prepared the answer. The shadows are eternal, and we are their keepers. In the darkness, we always triumph.